Yo, yo, peace, y'all. Divine greetings. It's your boy Gnostics once again. but yeah, I came from that first video, basically giving y'all the introduction on, just awakening the chakras, the 7 energy sensors. And since, if who hasn't seen the video yet, I mean, this is the book. I mean, if somebody's just happened to jump into, missing the introduction, it's only my second video, so hopefully, I mean, it kind of stays in an order. I mean, things will go differently, upon different situations and different circumstances. But, yeah, so what I wanted to do today is actually get into chapter 1 with you guys, which is actually a story. Well, the beginning of it is a story, so be able to describe that. Hope everybody's having a good day right now, for the most part, or as good as it can be. I know things are stressful in life. Okay, so chapter 1 is called The Inward Eye. Meditation on the flame of a lamp produces a state called witness consciousness. The witness of life is ageless and timeless, the essence which survives all transformation of personality, all emotional storms, that changes of thought and experience. The witness is centered in the region of the third eye, by Harish Johari. Santosh Puri Island and Narmada Puri. The ancient city of Haridwar is called the gateway to the gods. Not far from the Ganges River, Mother Ganga splits into 7 fingers that spread over the vast, flat expanse of the North Indian plain. A few miles north of the city, not far from the 7 Rishis Road, heavily populated with meandering, orange-garbed sadhus. You can stand beneath a strip of trees on the west side of the river and look northward at the front range of the majestic Himalayas in the distance. When you look east, you see the nearest channel of the river and then an island, a vast expanse of rock, gravel, and driftwood that has floated downriver and found a calm resting place. When you sit by the bank to take in the spectacle of that vast landscape, from time to time, someone might walk past you along the dirt footpath that runs alongside the river. Just downstream, the nearest channel flows wide and shallow. You can also cross through it on an island. Until some years ago, a slender sadhu named Santosh Puri lived on an island, naked except for covering of ash on his body. He was a Naga Baba, an ascetic renunciation who milked his cows for food and depended on what the Ganga brings for his firewood and other necessities of life. The Ganga was an expansive term that means not only the river but also anything brought to him by divine fortune. A Naga Baba makes the ultimate non-materialistic statement. He possesses nothing but a container that serves to carry water, milk, food, or to be used as a begging bowl, a loincloth to tie around his waist when he goes into town, and perhaps a blanket to protect against cold or rain. In the Naga Baba views, all material desires are futile distractions that come between himself and God. On an island near 7 Rishis Road, a small collection of Naga Baba lived for a short or longer periods. In 1969, a 24-year-old German woman went to India on a spiritual quest and ultimately found her way to that island. She instantly received Santosh Puri to be her guru and devoted herself to the following path of austerity. For an entire year, there was no conversation, no discussing no discussion, no eating together. Her only words in his presence were the mantra Om Namah Shivaya. They communicated non-verbally, slept next to the river, and cared for Santosh Puri's holy cows. Often he sat up and meditated in the middle of the night. At 2 a.m. every day he rose in the darkness and carried out religious observances. Again and again he tried to send his self-declared disciple away, for a woman was not part of that plan for the life of celibacy and austerity. Although she experienced many daunting challenges and nearly died several times, the woman's spiritual energy did not waver. Eventually, Santosh Puri stopped objecting her presence, acknowledged his love for her, and gave up all his vows of celibacy. They married, had 3 children, same thing. As the years went by, she became the venerated Narama Puri, or Mataji, mentioned in the preface and the introduction. Her book, Tears of Bliss, A Guru's Disciple Mystery. Again, that's Tears of Bliss, A Guru's Disciple Mystery. It is a heart-moving testimony describing the dedication and austerities of a spiritual renunciant. So let me turn this light on here, actually. There we go. That's actually a lot better. Hopefully it doesn't interfere with what I got going on here. I hope it's because I got the flash on, it's blinding. But, okay. Many of Mataji's struggles during her early years on the island were at the first chakra level. Sheer, pure, physical survival. Life or death. She seemed to have willingly accepted her hardships as living on her own in caves and going without food for long periods. Perhaps in a sense, Mataji's choice were soulfully linked with her guru's name, Santosh, which means contentment and self-sufficiency. Usually, but not always, he modeled contentment with a shield of wisdom for almost every circumstance. In his complete surrender to God's will, a humble and ego-freeing pathway was etched into the depths of his character. We can only surmise that he was awake in higher chakra consciousness, as he possessed a remarkable acceptance of difficult circumstances that could not be changed, and an overall spirit of peace and contentment even in the great face of hardships. Oh, sorry, I read that completely wrong. Sorry, I'll go back on that. We can only surmise that he was awake in higher chakra consciousness, as he possessed a remarkable acceptance of difficult circumstances that could not be changed, an overall spirit of peace and contentment even in the face of great hardships. Okay, well, I had a dyslexia moment for a minute, or something was going on there. Another female guru, Guru Mai Shivile Sananda, claims that it's when you are free from selfishness, when you are not thinking about yourself in a selfish way, what that you experience the tender shoots of contentment growing inside your heart. Her understanding is like a magnifying glass that enables us to contemplate Santosh Puri's brave choices and in our own selfish or selfless world of spiritual nature. When you go to the 7 chakras on the island, when you go to India to discover more about the chakras, be sure to talk with Mataji. Peter told Cooch and Victor in late 2013. Before they boarded an airplane for Delhi, following his advice, they went to her ashram just north of the ancient holy city of Haridwar and conversed with her in its flower-laden outdoor pagoda. built upon Sri Shantas Puri's last resting place, where he was buried sitting upright in a full lotus position. That's dedication. That's discipline. Mataji taught that the chakras are the 5 elements in action, teachings that are beautifully represented in Plate 1, 7 cosmic energy centers, the Muladhara. The first chakra is connected to the earth, the sense of smell, and the importance of security, food, shelter, and work. Svadhisthana, the second chakra, is connected to the water element, the life-giving forces, and sense of taste. Meditating on the second chakra teaches us about the importance of family and the emotional web of our own life. The Manipura, the third chakra, also relates to the fire element and sense of sight. It is the seat of ego. Name, recognition, and honor are important here. Anahata is the fourth chakra, and it is linked to the element of air and the sense of touch. It is located in the heart region, where we can feel unselfish love and compassion. The Vishuddha, or the fifth chakra, is connected to the Akasha or space element and the sense of sound. Higher teachings such as discipline and self-control are linked with this center in the Ajna or the sixth chakra. One goes beyond ordinary thinking and can enter into deep states of meditation. When someone, mostly yogis or people on a spiritual path, opens the Sarhasrara, or the seventh chakra, self-realization and communion with the divine spirit is said to be attained. So, like I was saying in in the introduction, basically, like I said, the chakras they're connected to all parts of the senses, whether it's an element, whether it's an organ, whether it's a feeling. Like it's all interconnected to bring it into a universal understanding, especially when it comes to self-realization. So like, in the chapter where they spoke on the heart being connected to touch, sometimes if you are, just say for example, like I'm just going to use this for a moment, if you are a person who is uneasy when it comes to being touched, and it feels like there's been some sort of a block there, like if you have more of a feeling of that's not compassionate towards that, and you go and you get reclusive, like say for example from a hug, from a touch, say for an example, like maybe even something with a partner, sexually. These are things we have to be able to ask ourselves why, that we may be feeling that way towards this feeling of touch. And, like I said, they can be latent from traumas. They can be from maybe, even like not being touched maybe enough as a child, and, as far as like hugs and, just love and compassion from your parents. So when you get to a time of having to accept it, sometimes it can be a little more difficult. Okay? I was just using one of those for an example. I could also, I guess, we can go into the root. Actually, yeah, the root. I'll go into that one. Food, shelter, water. Why did I say water? Food, shelter, and work. And, they say, it's being about the security. So it's hard to move on from those things if we're not in an ability to feel secure. So therefore, it can put blockages if you don't feel like you're in a state or position that, would provide, survival. Sometimes that can be a relationship, whether it's, financial incompatibility, one person working, another person not, both people working but still struggling. It can also just be your job. Just in today's world that we're in, not everything. If it's not a business that you're owning, even if it is, things happen in life and it may not go the way that we expect. So through that, we really have to sometimes it's hard to feel secure, especially, if it's in a corporate world, there's constant cuts, it's like, here's your servants package, I hope that you do okay. People are worried about that because, they're not, we're still in that structural world where people are more focused on working for somebody rather than working for themselves. And, even if you are, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm saying on behalf of the fact that, do you want to own something or do something from yourself from there? For example, like, you could be a lawyer, you could be doing good in your firm, but you might just decide to open your own firm. Or you might just be, working a 9 to 5, you have a secondary job and you're allowing yourself to maybe, save just a little bit because you want to start maybe a new journey in your life, and that's what the next step is. So you might have to overcome these obstacles of day-to-day work, which is nothing, like I said, nothing wrong with that. We all do it, but it's just about attaining and getting out of that structural knowledge and programming to be able to do for ourselves, so we are no longer confined by those worries. And, like it says, food. Everybody worries about that. Not having enough food. Making sure that your children are fed. Just all these securities, you want to alleviate that as far as, having these worries, allowing that your root chakra to be, stagnated, because you will always have that closed up. And how, you want to be able to work from the bottom up, or if you work in terms of, I guess, the left-hand path, as we do, whether in vampirism is from the top below. So, it's just these of understanding, I'll probably go into the other ones separately on another video, but I want to keep reading through here so I don't, take too long on these topics. It says, when we go back in time and look closely at the Santosh Puri island, we can envision the higher workings of the chakras. Santosh Puri disdained the glamour and celebrity consciousness of the second chakra. He seldomly left the island. Indeed, one year when the Ganges flooded, everyone else evacuated the island, but he found a perch high in a tree and watched the floodwaters sweep past him below. He never allowed any honor or reverence to be shown to him. His vow of celibacy was a second chakra event, and so too was giving up the vow, marrying Narmada, and raising a family. As for the third and sixth chakras, he expressed a gentle yet fierce strength by living a radical renunciation with his third eye wide open to see beyond worldly understanding. The fourth chakra is visible in his and Narmada's selfless care for each other, their family, and their cows, but it went further. They cultivated a loving attitude towards everyone. Despite possessing almost nothing, their ideal was to eat only after they had fed the cows and at least 10 other people. They did not congratulate themselves on being spiritually minded. It was their humble life. Everyone was welcome to Babaji's Duni, says Astanga Yoga teacher Narayan Puri. Babaji is a term of respect for those whom others consider great gurus. A Duni is a sacred fire pit in which the flame is never allowed to completely go out. Narayan Puri continues. Okay, so, I'm not, it's not saying, people are like, oh, well, they're yogis. Like, how do we apply that in today's world? And you know, actually, like, it's the representation of sacrifice, not sacrificing yourself in the fact of, you know, for others or being that for others. It's a part of yourself, like, it's a part of you to make the better you. There's some things like habits that we might have to give up. There's certain things like the patterns of the ways that we're thinking and stuck in that we might have to remove ourselves in order for growth, unless it's working for us. But and there, like, theirs was more of a, you know, a discipline. I mean, there are people who want this experience. There are people who are willing to just give it all up and have the experience for what it is, and actually, you know, go through all of the chakras, the survival, the food, the shelter, you know, and moving up. Like, I mean, you move from, you know, that to the heart, you know, opening and being able to allow, like, you know, and it's interesting the way, you know, that it just moves up and you see the ways of it opening. And this story will still go into more, but I'll continue on that. People of all religions, races, castes, and creeds came to be in his presence. Sadhus from different orders, high-ranked pandits sitting next to low, outcast workers, criminals beside policemen and merchants, Muslims, Hindus, and Christians, as well as dogs and the cows. All enjoyed being near Babaji. One time, a Brahmin priest asked Babaji, "Why do you let all these strange people stay at your duni? You are a Hindu, a sannyasi." Babaji just smiled and said, "I am no Hindu, no Muslim, no Christian. I am a fakir, a yogi. I have no temple. The Ganga is my home." He lived in Atman consciousness. All is one. So, you know, he didn't need more. He knew what he needed, you know, and it's all about having and understanding your needs and not conflicting them with your wants. These are two separate things. Keep that in mind. Though at first glance it may seem paradoxical, the fifth chakra can be seen in Santas Puri's and Narmada's Puri's discipline of silence during her first year on the island. Santas Puri taught by example. He showed that we can hold back the flood of trivia that makes up everyday speech and communicate what truly counts through gratitude and action. So that's when I look at it, like, you know, even in a relationship, like, I mean, like, communication, don't get me wrong, communication is key. But could you communicate well with your partner without talking to them? I challenge a lot of you to actually give that an attempt and, you know, really see, you know, how much and how you're really connected and what you may need to work on. If, you know, so be like, I mean, just what you would need to work on. Like, if you saw that you couldn't communicate without words, like, just try using the actions and gestures for maybe even a couple hours. I mean, if you can do it for a whole day, I challenge you to that. That's a real challenge. You know, they got all these bullshit challenges out here. I mean, who can do that? You know, who can actually be like with their partner, you know, not just with their partner, but with their partner. The sixth chakra is apparent in Santas Puri's ability to see deeply into other people and occasionally to be apparent cause of events that to others seem miraculous. He and Narmada Puri both seem to have succeeded in perceiving the divine spirit in all, or at least in most people and beings. Or the seventh chakra, or at least touching a trace of it, Narayan Puri writes. But, okay, I'll read what he wrote, actually, in a moment. But it was saying the ability to see deeply, Like, we are so constant with casting judgment on somebody, maybe just, on a personal belief, and just by their outer self. Like, I mean, it's like it's a difference between judging somebody and actually being able to see a person for who they truly are. If they truly are who they keep representing themselves to be, then I mean, hey, I mean, you may want to be a good, like, you might not never want to be a good person, but I mean, you can see a person's potential if they were to apply it and take advantage of it, or maybe even had the opportunity to apply their potential. Not saying that they can't, but some people realize it. Some people realize it too late. So, being able to see beyond what, your eyes tell you, and being able to really, connect with your energy to really, get a good gauge of a person. And, not only by their words, but by their energy and also by their actions, it goes a long way. But a lot of people don't give that the time, and they cut that out because they, I mean, don't get me wrong, some people don't deserve it. So I'm not saying, if they don't deserve it and it no longer serves a purpose in your life, then fuck it. Being in his Santas Puris presence during meditation of the veil of thoughts melted away like fog in the coming daylight. The essence of I melted into the pulsation of the present moment. After experiencing this grace, Babaji often just smiled. Actually, let me restart that, because this is what Anarayan Puri wrote, actually. I left it off, but then I went into that tangent. So, being in his, which is Santas Puris, presence during meditation, the veil of thoughts melted away like fog in the coming daylight. The essence of I melted into the pulsation of the present moment. After experiencing this grace, Babaji often just smiled or sent me off to do a seva, a selfless service. Also, his grace continued flowing and surrounding me as if it had always been there. This lean fakir was a being of truth, a yogi beyond words, beyond facades, and self-realized soul. Now let's consider some of the reflection that provides a context for our present work. Okay, so it's going into basically saying what's in it for me, exploring your chakras, okay? Checking out what's happening in each of your chakras requires examining internal energies. This reflective process can help you to better handle both problems and opportunities. Speaking of his personal experience, Peter says, which is important, personal experience. When we first got confronted with learning about chakras, we had no clue about our inner world. It was just one big fog. From social sciences, we got some concepts like ego, superego, subconscious, and also learned names for mental problems like schizophrenia, psychosis, neurosis, and now ADHD and autism. But the inner world still remained a mystery. There were no stories and no teachers. Sri Harish Johari helped us to understand that the main contribution of the chakras is that they help give meaning to the world that we're living in. Meditation enables you to dive within your inner being, where meaningful dialogue with chakras begin. When you make a point of noticing how your energy moves through various situations, you're likely to become aware of your chakras and polarities that exist within them. Many of us think primarily about the positive aspects of chakras, but when we have troubles or worries, their opposite qualities can come into focus. When that happens, let me say that again. When many of us primarily think of the positive aspects of chakras, but when we have troubles or worries, their opposite qualities can come into focus. So it's like, if you're going against the rotation, so if you're going in a clockwise motion, basically, well, counterclockwise motion, basically backwards instead of, you're becoming, it's leaning more towards the opposing balance within yourself. Okay, let me find my spot. When that happens, you may be wise to reflect on that troubling issue and do your best to work through, or you might conclude that you're not quite ready to deal with that issue yet. Either way, viewing your situations through the consciousness expanding lens of chakra meditation can help you to strengthen and regain your inner balance. If at present you're not ready to do inner work on a given issue, when the challenges of your situation or your reactions are less intense, you may feel differently. Then you can dive into inner space and connect with the force field of subtle chakra energy that relates to your experience and the feelings you hold. When you decide to work with your chakras, consider the following 4 steps. First, select a situation and chakra that corresponds with the qualities related to it. In this book, you'll learn more about the chakras and correspondences. And so now I was just telling you, if you, like I said before in the introduction and earlier in the episode, to basically find out where you have these troubles and locate that and, see where those troubles are, whether it's in your heart, your solar plexus, your throat chakra, your ajna chakra, just wherever you think that the problem is stemming from, locate that, and then we can apply this to the section as well. Okay? Second, be willing to be in the present moment and perceive what you are actually doing, even if it contradicts your self-image. This can be tough. It may require facing and acknowledging a less than admirable trait of yourself. For example, it feels good to think that we're offering open-hearted love from our 4th chakra. However, we may be in complete denial that we're passively acting in a selfishly controlling way in order to get what we want, rather than acknowledging our partner's needs, which is a 3rd chakra motivation. This particular kind of deception, this particular kind of self-deception is widespread. So, for one, it said, even focusing and, looking into our chakras, as I said before, it can come to the negative side of ourself. Like, we won't be able to get forward if we can't address what we assume is perfect that might be a problem, or, even if we're not assuming that it's perfect, you're assuming and taking it into this denial, this state of denial that you can't even accept it because it's latent within you. So you really do have to address these situations as well. And it says also, let me reread that part. However, like I said, we may be in complete denial that we are passively acting in a selfishly controlling way in order to get what we want. So sometimes, we're holding on to certain situations because, it could benefit us in certain ways, but it might not bring the best results when it comes to your happiness, and being able to be free from situations. And it also says, this particular kind of self-deception is widespread. Like, a lot of us see this go on in our daily life. It's just, whether it's relationships, whether it's parents, it's sometimes the things that our parents do personally can be very manipulative. And even to this day, they wouldn't be able to admit it because, the generational curve is so vast. It's like, how many parents that are typically out there today are working or listening or understanding chakras or even trying to? It's still that conditioning of the religious aspects and concepts and ideologies that, people are still, conditioned and programmed in. So it's like no one can relieve themselves and elevate themselves spiritually because they don't know where to start to do the work, because they're doing it externally and they're not doing any internal work. And of course, like I said, that's where it starts. You can't take it any other way, and you can't find any sort of solace if you're denying yourself to really having, these experiences of actually working on yourself, or at least stop putting yourself in situations where you just let everything go. Like, you don't just let everything go. Sometimes these things needed to be communicated, either within yourself or to a partner or whatever relationship that you're sharing with your family. So, definitely take these things into consideration. Third, work to consciously evolve meaningful connections with your chakras through greater awareness of mind, body, breath, and spirit, or even through sacred dance and movement, or creating rituals that use the elements of chakras correspondences. By connecting their obvious and subtle energies, you can intentionally create a more thoughtful, stronger you. Your fourth step is to, actually, let me go into that third step, actually. Learn that it's very important to be aware. I mean, you can just go into today's world and you notice a lot of people don't even have the basic awareness. Like, you can't sense danger. Like, you have the ability, you can't, or you can't even gauge, that, something that you're about to do may be a bad idea. And this goes to, whoever, I mean, you could be a teenager watching this, you could be an adult, there's situations that we have to at least take into consideration of the consequences. And that's a form of being aware. What might happen if I do this now? Is it going to be completely negative? Is it going to be more trouble versus what it could be the alternative? It's just these ways of being aware. Like, or just everyday knowledge, being aware of your surroundings. Like, you should know if a certain position could possibly be an outcome in your life, and that you feel like you might need to get away from that. It's about being aware. Okay? Body. If your body is telling you, hey, I'm hurting, I need to exercise, maybe I need to stretch. You feel like you haven't stretched in a while. Your body is giving you the signal for care. You're like, we want to sit here and be like, oh, my back hurts, my whatever hurts. And, granted, some people have been in accidents. So, I'm not saying it like that. But I'm also saying, maybe we can also look into alternatives of what could help with that. Do something about it. Sometimes we're just laying and complaining and not really putting ourselves in a situation of where we can make ourselves feel better. And your physical will definitely let you know. And I'm not saying just the external things. Like, I mean, you want to take care, like, your skin, your hair, like, you want to intake, foods that aren't detrimental to your health. I mean, everybody sees in today's world, if you're not noticing what this soda stuff is doing to people, all this, these certain, just the ingredients within certain snacks and candies, that we even sit here and we put into our children at times, like, it's a sick way that, we're conditioned of being, but it's about realizing what would actually elevate and promote the health in our body. Because sometimes we're taking it in such a care that we think that there's going to be no consequence behind what we're doing to ourselves. And that really needs to be recognized. The body needs to be cared for, because that allows you to also, like it said, it's good to be aware of your mind. Your mind it'll direct you towards your body. Your body will also respond to your mind. So in being able to recognize as well, like I said, being aware, it goes a long way. So, okay, so that's the next one that they said here. Breath. I always stress breathing. Yoga helps with that. I mean, even if you're just sitting, laying, if you're a heavy breather, you're huffing and puffing a lot, work on ways of really being able to allow your breath to flow so you're not creating a blockage. You have to learn how to breathe deep. I had to take one there myself. If you're not allowing the situation to be breathed, if you're doing dream work, for example, a lot of people have the fixation for astral projection, dream work, the ability to do yoga. Even if you're just exercising, breathing is important. If you're just walking, if you're laying down, making sure your breath is on a good pace before you go to sleep. It definitely calms and eases the anxieties or, whatever problem that we may be enduring, or to help us enter different transcendental states that can actually be beneficial to this kind of work. And especially if you're trying to elevate yourself to another spiritual level, because it's not going to work if you're not able to breathe. None of it. You're going to have to breathe. And these are all ritualistic. People take the wrong word of ritual and think that it's necessarily, yes, it is connected to magic, but it's basically, doing something in a change of your everyday life to put it in a pattern to better yourself is a ritual. You're doing it routinely to become better, to become greater, to become your greatest potential. Okay? Where did I leave off? Okay. By connecting with their obvious and subtle energies, you can act intentionally to create a more thoughtful, stronger you. Basically what I just got done saying. Okay, sorry. Actually, no. I missed spirit here. That's just work in itself. We have to be right within. Spiritual work is applying all of these and then doing the work. Like meditate, pay attention to your dreams. Work with this spiritual energy. We have our ancestors, we have all this energy to work with around us, and we ignore the capabilities of what we're able to do when we recognize it and we utilize it in the way that it's there to be used. Most people in this Western world don't even honor, their dead loved ones. And it's not, I'm not going to say it's not their fault, because it's conditioned to what they don't know. Or some people have altars and don't even realize that it's an altar. You'll see a place where maybe, many pictures are of one person that they love the most. And, you have that there, but what else could you add to it? You create the altar for them. Keep their energy between here and there. Connect yourself to them. We don't take heed to what spirit is capable of connecting with. It's the law of conservation. You can't. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. So when they're gone, they're not gone, but here physically. So definitely, like I said, take heed to what the spirit can be capable of, and that is not gone. It's never gone. So when creating these altars of sorts, like I said, you'll have the pictures. That'll still keep some energy. Add something to that. Something that person loved. A smell. An item.